1. There are world-changing lessons to be learned all around us. The modern world has made us lose our desire to learn. There are many things to be curious about, yet we focus on what we can learn from a computer screen rather than getting outside and getting our hands dirty. Nature is full of exquisite wonder, but we will always miss out if we don't explore it. Helen Macdonald has always been a lover of nature, even as a child. She has an instinctive love of the natural world and finds life lessons from every rock, animal, plant, and insect. It's easy to think that science is a set of guidelines and rules that we must adhere to. It's a list of things that just are, and we shouldn't question it. But rather than accepting, we should ask questions. Through her work as a historian of science, Macdonald realized that as humans, we have always seen nature as though looking in a mirror. We allow it to reflect the way we see the world and our hopes. But nature has a lot to teach us if we only dare to get out and explore. Climate change isn't irreversible. With fast action, we can limit the ramifications and start to turn back the clock. Vesper Flights is a series of essays from Macdonald's nature experiences. In each one, she muses on the lessons we can learn. Her aim is to help us see the world through different eyes and get thinking outside the box. Climate change is threatening our very existence, and we all need to look deeply at what we can do together to make a change. Science will help us work out what is causing the problem and how to fix it, but by becoming more aware of nature and what it means, we can spread the word and encourage action. We can all start to ask more profound questions about our planet. In this summary, you will have your eyes opened to the beauty of everything around you. From the leaves on the trees to each blade of grass, there is a wonder in everything and life lessons to ponder and explore. Chapter 2. Home isn't a place, it's what you hold inside you. When Helen Macdonald was a child, she was fascinated by nature. She collected pine cones, shells, seeds, leaves, anything she could get her tiny hands on. But one thing she was always a little wary of was eggs. She viewed eggs as personal and sacred, a vessel for life. However, she soon became aware that naturalists often collected eggs and learned about nature from them throughout the years. This knowledge made her extremely curious and fascinated about nests. From her home in the countryside, nests were everywhere, yet somehow still hidden away. After all, that was the point of a nest. She would see birds flying in and out of the nests and feel a need to explore. So when the adult bird had flown away, she would head outside and reach her hand inside the nest to see what she could find. There are many similarities between the way birds and humans protect their newborns. We both create a safe, loving home and dedicate our time to feeding our babies. Helen Macdonald likens bird nests to the dens she used to make when she was younger. These were magical and discreet places, tunnels where she felt safe and protected. So when she was small, she knew what nests were about. They were secrets, just like the dens she made. The birds protected inside showed her how fragile life could be. Yet nests were a complete contradiction to how she viewed birds. To her, birds were the epitome of freedom. If they sensed a threat, they could fly away. Nests were a sign that they weren't free after all. They were tied down to a particular place, a home of sorts. Of course, birds' homes are not permanent. They change by the season. That idea challenged Macdonald's view of what a home means. Does it have to be a static place you return to? Or can it be an idea, a place in your heart that you hold dear? The birds taught her that home is only where the heart is. Did you know? Birds go to great lengths to secure their nests, often gluing them together with their saliva. Chapter 3. Climate change merges the signs of the 4 seasons together. Helen Macdonald lives in England, where there are 4 distinct seasons. Yet she has noticed that the seasons aren't as long-lasting and evident as they used to be. She attributes this to climate change. She traveled to California to work during the UK winter, leaving the snow and cold behind. When she returned, she was confused by jet lag and the weather differences between the 2 locations. However, one small sighting made her heart leap for joy and reminded her of the wonder of the seasons. Upon making her way through the countryside, she noticed movement out of the corner of her eye that made her heart leap with joy. A group of 5 brown hares were running and playing in the field. This automatically made her think of one thing: spring. Hares have a magical place in folklore. They are a sign of Easter, spring, and renewal of life. Hares also exist in mysterious ways. Female hares can become pregnant with their next litter before giving birth to the first lot. They are the UK's fastest land animals, and they eat their own droppings. However, hares are declining in the UK due to farming and agricultural expansion, leaving them with little food to eat. You rarely see hares freely in the countryside, but when you do, it's a beautiful sight and takes your mind back to those magical reputations these fascinating animals have. When she saw the hares during her drive, realizing that winter's dark days were about to end made her smile. Climate change has made our seasons scrape. Now, catkins appear in winter, cuckoos are rarely heard, and rather than a slow progression, springs are increasingly a short flash of sudden warmth before summer, hardly a season at all. Helen Macdonald. The sight of spring hares reminds us how we must assume that things will always be as they're supposed to be, yet many external forces can change the natural order, with climate change as the prime cause. Chapter 4. Humans and wildlife don't live separately. Our worlds are intertwined. The human world is heavily geared toward technology, so it can be quite a jolt when the natural and the human worlds collide. For Helen Macdonald, the following occurrence was an eye-opener. It reminded her that there is no separation between the human world and the natural world for wildlife. They are the same. It happened during a wildlife spotting expedition on the east coast of Ireland. She was advised to go to the Poolbeg power station close to Dublin. This station is abandoned and faces the sea, making it a hotbed of bird spotting opportunities. It occurred to her that the station was an odd place to be looking for wildlife, full of old abandoned buildings, massive chimneys, and broken windows. Yet, it proved to be the perfect spot. She sat with her friends for a while, looking at pigeons and gulls, and nothing much happened to catch her attention. But then, one of the pigeons started acting erratically, seeming spooked by something. Macdonald realized a falcon was close by, and she was taken aback by its beauty as the huge bird swooped in and landed on one of the windowsills. She can clearly remember the whooshing sound of its wings, its loud call, and the extreme beauty of its feathers. We cannot expect wildlife to stick to their patch and humans to stick to theirs. We all occupy the same world. The falcon looked out over the land in front of it, surveying its hunting ground. It wasn't human land or animal land to the falcon. It was all prime ground for hunting food. There's nature in every city, but we turn our backs on it and focus on our busy lives. We assume that nature is only where we think it should be, such as fields, rivers, and nature reserves. But nature is all around us. The Poolbeg power station isn't a natural beauty spot, but to that falcon, it was the perfect spot because it could look for food there. Chapter 5. The glow of a TV screen cannot beat the glow of nature. Every summer, Helen Macdonald heads out to a specific spot in the countryside to look for one extraordinary phenomenon. It happens during the hottest days around June and July, and you need to sit quietly and wait for it to appear. For Macdonald, it's more than worth the wait. She heads to a nature reserve, sits on the grass, and soaks up the fresh air, waiting for the special moment that moves her to tears. As the light dims, she peers into the growing darkness with anticipation, and there it is. A slight light appears among the grass, becoming brighter and brighter as darkness creeps across the sky. The natural world is full of glorious light, such as the aurora borealis, the northern lights, yet many people never get to see it. Macdonald has been waiting for glowworms, or Lamprey noctiluca, to arrive. Not only are glowworms beautiful to look at as they light up the evening, but they're nothing short of ridiculous at the same time. Only female glowworms can shine, but they cannot drink, eat, or even fly. They stay underground all day long, only coming out at a particular time of year, waiting to attract a mate. Once they've mated, they lay their eggs and die. It's a short life, but one illuminated by brilliant light. We live in a world of distracting, endless, glowing screens, but even so, these shining, tiny beings retain an allure that draws people out in droves to stand and wonder. Helen Macdonald. TV screens, tablets, cell phones, and computers constantly illuminate our world. Still, perhaps the brightest light doesn't come from artificial means. It comes from the glow of nature, from a tiny glowworm waiting for its chance to mate before ending its short and quite dark life. Rather than staring at screens, we should be staring harder at the light of nature. Chapter 6. The empathy of animals can move you to tears. We often hear stories of dogs showing empathy toward their owners, but Helen Macdonald witnessed a startling show of compassion from none other than a swan. For sure, nobody expects such a regal bird to show true feeling and sympathy toward a human, but perhaps that is what made it all the more special. Before that remarkable incident, she had never really been a fan of swans, remembering from her childhood tales of how a swan could break an adult arm with just one swipe of its wing. Yet one mainly gray day, she was nursing a broken heart, sitting by the river. Just as she was lamenting her loneliness and aching heart, a large female swan elegantly got out of the water and waddled over to her. At first, Macdonald wondered whether she should get up and slowly edge away, still worrying about those tales of broken arms. But she remained still. She was transfixed by the sight of the swan fearlessly walking toward her. The swan then turned, faced the river, and sat down beside her, so close that she could touch its feathers. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand how they are feeling. For a second, she had no idea what to do. Should she move? Would she upset the swan if she tried to move too fast? But the swan seemed utterly unaffected by the presence of a human so close, and simply sat there, looking at the river, and then fell asleep. They sat there for 10 minutes until a small child disturbed the swan, and it got back in the water, carrying on with its day as if nothing remarkable had just happened. Macdonald believes that the swan understood her upset and chose to sit beside her in companionship. She felt emotional and realized that the loneliness had disappeared while the swan was beside her. Nature shows many examples of empathy toward humans in physical or emotional pain. And although we will never truly know whether animals can genuinely feel our pain, the differences between humans and animals drift away during these precious moments. Conclusion. The natural world is not something that exists far away or only in fields. While our everyday lives are increasingly overtaken by technology and devices, we need to stop and appreciate the wonders of nature around us as much as possible. As Helen Macdonald shows us, there are lessons to be learned in every single part of nature. One emotional example is how animals often show empathy to humans in pain. When you consider that many humans harm animals for fun, it's pretty astounding that they would show us this level of kindness and care. It's also important to remember that there is a lot of joy in the small things. Focusing on mindfulness and being firmly in the moment is beneficial on so many levels. Head outside to enjoy nature and be firmly in that moment without worrying about what's gone before it or what's to come. These are the occasions that allow us to reflect and appreciate everything we have around us. Life often goes far too fast to understand just how blessed we truly are. Taking time to stop and look at the bigger picture is increasingly vital due to the threat of climate change. We all need to be far more aware of the world around us and what we can do to help reduce the risks, else the planet will get hotter and hotter, sea levels will rise, and irreversible damage will occur in the years to come. By being more aware of nature and having a greater appreciation for it, we can put forth a concerted effort toward making the future better for new generations. Try this. Make it a priority to get outside and breathe in some fresh air every single day. Rather than driving everywhere, you could walk. Take the scenic route and enjoy the countryside. What can you do to help reduce the impact of climate change? Do some research into how to change your habits.